because it's fun to catch up after about, what, a year and a half since we've been together in person. But it sure is great to be together, especially in this new room. My name is Woody Kingman, class of 1978, which I'm getting confused in the years. My father was the class of 1939, and as I look out there at the name tags and I see 38 or 33, and I realize, hold it, that's parent of 2038, not 1939. But it's amazing that in my life I'm beginning to span a century of Blake, which is kind of fun. So a lot of history and a lot of tradition and a lot of great friendships, so it's all fun to be back together again. Say, we have a great slate lined up for this year. Not only do we get to hear from Ann this morning, but our first speaker next month, and I want you to all put it on your calendar, it'll be during homecoming. It's our Breakfast at Blake reunion edition. It'll be Friday, October 1st, and the speaker is Stephen Hogue, class of 1994. He's a doctor, a scientist, and president of a small company you may never have heard of called Moderna. Actually, I'm pretty certain it's been in the news every day for the last year and a half, so that is going to be a fantastic breakfast, and I hope we'll see y'all then. Then, at the same time, we're going to recognize our Jenny Stevens Hagen Spirit Award recipient, Malcolm McDonald, class of 1954, who has done so much for Blake over the years. It'll be fun to celebrate and honor him as well. So to get us started, I'd just like to invite Amy Saldana, parent of a Blake student or two and chair of the Blake Board of Trustees, up to the podium. Thanks.
Thanks so much.
All right, you bet.
Good morning, everyone. And thanks so much, Woody. I am delighted that you all could join us today on the most gorgeous day ever. Can you imagine what was it like walking up to the campus, up the stairs, and the sun was glistening over the football field? It was truly magical, right? I never get tired of walking into this new facility because I think about how hard people work to make that happen, and it's just such a complete delight to be here every single day. I am delighted also that you could join us here today to hear from Blake's head of school, Dr. Ann Stavney. Since joining Blake in 2012, Ann has led many new and powerful changes across the school's 3 divisions. Ann's deep experience in and passion for developing curriculum has resulted in transformative initiatives, including Blake's global programs, field experiences, and connecting Blake students and teachers into Global Online Academy, which is a consortium of schools that connects teachers and students worldwide. Ann has also led a deepened investment in financial assistance, helping to move the number of students who receive need-based financial assistance from 205 when she arrived to 352 today. She has championed expanding the Office of Equity and Community Engagement, otherwise known as OECE, and deepened the school's program for student service opportunities. Locally and nationally, Ann contributes to and stays connected to the field of education. Currently, she serves on leadership boards for the Independent Metro Athletic Conference, Minnesota Association of Independent Schools, and Children's Theater Company, and on the Accreditation Review Committee for the Independent Schools Association of the Central States. She also regularly presents, in her free time I'm presuming, at national conferences on issues relevant to pre-K through 12 and independent school education. Ann's leadership and commitment to Blake is both impressive and inspiring, and we are so fortunate to have her leadership here at Blake. I am pleased and honored and very grateful to welcome you to the podium, Ann.
All right. Thank you, Amy, for that introduction, and thanks to all of you for being here. It is so great to be here in person together in this facility. This is our second week of school, and we're still enjoying that first week of school joy and energy. And I actually expect it to go on for a few more weeks. We're all just so thrilled to be together. It's great to see our students with each other, too. That is something that brings, I think, all of us joy, those of us in education, to see them with each other, learning and having fun. I want to offer a special welcome to our new to Blake parents who are here. and also those of you who are joining us by live stream, and they are really from all over the country, New York and the Bay Area and downtown Minneapolis. So welcome to all of you. This back to school season comes at a point, I think, in the pandemic where we are all taking stock. And it has allowed us, the pandemic, I think, has allowed us to reflect on and reflect deeply on aspects of our daily lives, many different aspects. For those of us in PK-12 education, we have changed virtually everything about how we do school in the last 18 months. So that we are all, I think, experiencing a cultural reset brought on by the massive disruption of the pandemic. And so as we kick off this school year, we at Blake are presented with a really unique, I think, and wonderful opportunity to reflect on what we've learned over the last year and a half. In particular, what do we want to leave behind from our pre-pandemic days? What do we want to bring forward? And how can we use what we've learned over the last 18 months to inform our new programs? So I'll be sharing some thoughts about those three questions this morning, and I'm excited also to get your feedback and your questions after my remarks. So we have had used lots of new acronyms in the last couple of years. They refer to things like remote teaching and learning, hybrid teaching and learning, Zoom gatherings. We have had all of those iterations galore in the school over the last 18 months. And these various technological formats have highlighted both the opportunities and, I think, limitations of technology in a school setting. One of the benefits of remote learning is that we've been able to test, we've been able to revise, improve in real time the way that teachers, advisors, grade deans, counselors, and coaches connect with our students. We have always known there is no substitute for in-person teaching and learning. We have known that for some time. And we understand now more than ever how important it is for students to be able to be with each other and with teachers, to be able to forge relationships among students and between teachers and students. Why does this matter? It matters because it translates into more engaged learning and greater personal growth. The vigor and vitality and authenticity of those relationships can't be duplicated online, and we know that. We learn too that smaller isn't always better. When you have 10 students in a learning group, it can be tough for kids to find classmates with whom they feel an affinity. It can also be challenging for a classroom to develop a shared culture, a sense of we are more than a group of individuals. We are a classroom with a certain classroom culture. And developing a strong class community is at the heart of what our educators do. We've also learned that to work well, teachers need to be in person to be responsive, to be particularly responsive to their students. And part of what makes a teacher excellent, and part of what so many of our Blake teachers are, they're really gifted at their ability to take classroom discussions in various directions, depending on the comments of students and depending on the tone of the room. So the art of modulating classroom discussions, it's much tougher online. We've all had that experience where you're trying to break in, someone else is talking. It's really difficult to have an evolving discussion online. And so leading a classroom discussion is much more challenging. And a teacher's ability to depart from the planned lesson can also be hindered by needing to keep various groups and discussions similar, say among the blue pod and the green pod. You don't want to go off in one direction completely and then the other pod is doing something else. So that has been a constraint for our teachers over the past year. I think too about a teacher's ability to kind of see the furrowed brow or draw out a student who might be reticent by maybe walking over and standing next to them and asking the question next to them in proximity. Those are things that are significantly hampered by the online format. In an in-person class, teachers pay attention to dozens of cues in every class period that help them connect with students, help them assess their understanding, notice dynamics between students, and also gauge when to take a lesson in a different direction or to go back or to skip forward to something else. Those are a number of things that we've learned over the last year. Things, again, we already knew, but were really highlighted or have come to the forefront in our experience. We have also been reminded of just how important the physical environment of in-person learning is. So last year, with our COVID mitigation strategies, we were called to place students in single desks. They were distanced at tables, with them all facing the teacher. This is a return to how schools looked years and years, really decades ago, before we knew that groups of students, Harkness tables, students being able to make eye contact with each other, circles are the most effective means to foster deep learning, collaboration, and also mutual engagement of all of the students in the classroom. So this fall, being able to, again, have flexible classroom seating has really been wonderful, really breathed new life into these spaces, and again, allow for us to create the teaching and learning environment that we know is best for students. We are now at a moment in Blake's history when we have a remarkable technological capacity for remote teaching and learning. Everything that we invested in last year is still in place. In addition, our educators have had professional development, intense, just-in-time professional development over the past year to really hone their online skills and their online teaching capacities. We know that remote learning isn't ideal for either the teacher, for the online students, or for the students in the classroom. And it's this reality that has informed our decision this year to make remote learning available only to students who need to quarantine or to isolate due to a positive COVID case. So that is our protocol, and that's the rationale behind it. So we're able to use our technological investments and the skills we've developed to maintain the continuity of our academic program for students, and that's the primary purpose behind when we use that technology. And at the same time, we're reconfirming the profound educational and social emotional benefits of in-person learning. It's been an era of pivots, and I think I said to my administrative team a couple weeks ago, we're not using the word pivot again for a year. We're kind of, enough. But it has been an era, I'm going to use the word, of pivots from remote teaching and learning to hybrid to back again. And for us, the need to recreate multiple class schedules. So that's the times of day, the frequency of class meeting, the length of class meeting, the rotation of classes, that's the class schedule. The need to recreate class scheduling multiple times over the last 18 months has helped us fine-tune and optimize the school day for the future. This year, both the middle school and the upper school have launched new class schedules, and those new class schedules are informed in part by a great deal of research that we've done, some scheduling experts we've brought in, so research, expertise, as well as our own personal experience of what we've learned by adjusting class schedules over the past year. In both middle and upper, the schedule changes have meant a couple of things: offering longer class times and fewer transitions in the school day, both for students and for teachers. The schedules also offer more opportunities for teachers to connect one-on-one with students and opportunities for students to connect with each other, whether that's in a club, an affinity group, a student activity, a service project. These schedules, we believe, reflect the best of what we have learned, again, through significant research, and also what we've learned from the exigencies of running a school during a pandemic. With the nuts and bolts set for these schedules, we are now continuing to evolve our teaching and learning practices to take best advantage of what are the parameters of our schedule. So for instance, this past summer, our middle school teachers took a deep dive into research about the adolescent brain, reading a book some of you might be familiar with called NeuroTeach. So looking into research about the adolescent brain and exploring how to make the most of a 70-minute class period. Their summer readings are informing the professional development that they're engaged in throughout this year, and also their pedagogical planning for this year. We've rethought scheduling for faculty and staff as well. In a day with a finite number of hours, how many of them should be spent driving from campus to campus? Question that we have asked. I see nods out there. So our educators and administrators have long faced the dilemma of how best to use their time while still recognizing the power of being present and in person to each other. This year, we're drawing really from the best of both worlds by alternating our administrative meetings between Zoom and in person. And Zoom meetings have been particularly helpful in the lower school as our Blake campus and our Highcroft campus educators began meeting collectively last spring in anticipation of our unified lower school in fall 2023. The past 18 months have demonstrated new ways to increase opportunities also for parent engagement and underscored the importance of a campus that is open, not only, of course, to our parents and guardians, but to visitors, how much we value that. We always want to be safe, but we don't want to be insular. And so we want to think and continue to think of our community broadly and to be welcoming. We know that our back to school nights, we have our first tonight at Highcroft, we know that they really resonate for parents. They're vital to experience them in person. And as we know, it's very powerful as a parent to actually visit the space where your child will be spending a good deal of time, where they'll be learning, also to talk with teachers, to form that relationship early in the year. And those teachers are going to be a very big part of your child's life this year. This familiarity is essential to a successful partnership between school and home. We're also considering parent-teacher conferences very thoughtfully. Last year, it was wonderful to see we had a record number of parents participate in parent-teacher conferences in the fall because they were able to participate over Zoom. And so folks could, step into the conference room at their workplace and have their parent-teacher conference, or if they might be traveling. In any event, we had record attendance. And so we see conferences as an opportunity for families to make contact with teachers as a way, in a way that aligns with their personal and professional lives. We also recognize that offering in-person conferences is very helpful, especially for parents of young learners and also for families who are new to Blake. So this year, we're offering both online and in-person conferences options to all of our families. Later in the year, we'll have one day that's in person and one day that's online, and families can choose what's going to work best for them. And later in the year, we'll ask for feedback from the community and adjust accordingly. Outside of the classroom, we have discovered ways that technology has allowed us to create opportunities for more people to come together. So the first time in our school's history, we've been able to invite alumni board members who don't live in the Twin Cities to be part of the school's leadership. And what that has meant is we can broaden our collective expertise, we can enlarge the scope of those who are actively engaged in Blake. Both our advancement and our admissions teams have been able to host events for alumni, for current parents, for prospective parents, prospective families who otherwise would not have been able to participate. And that also has been just a wonderful discovery and something that we will keep in mind going forward. A year ago, we launched Blake's Equity Lab. And the Equity Lab functions as a hub for equity-focused learning opportunities for our community. It's one of the many ways that the school carries out its mission, our core values, and our commitment to pluralism. Over the past year, the Equity Lab offered a series of online events connected by the theme of how to be an anti-racist. And this concept is borrowed from the title of Professor Kendi's book of the same name. The past 18 months have been a time when so many of us are looking for ways to take positive action toward equity, toward inclusion, toward justice. Yet bringing change in our daily lives, it can be daunting. And we ask ourselves, where do we start? Last year, we held 25 Equity Lab events, and these events offered lifelong learning opportunities. They were a welcome forum for discussion, a way for people to move beyond their isolation during the pandemic. The events were attended by some 1,300 different households, and they were led by alumni, parents, students, faculty, and staff. So truly a collective and community endeavor. This year's Equity Lab theme is inclusive community, and all Blake students, faculty, alumni, parents are invited to attend and also invited to submit a proposal to host a conversation that is relevant to or related to this theme. Proposal and event information will be published in Bare Essentials and also in the Cyrus Monthly e-newsletter. This era of reflections and discussion about the role of technology in school is coming at a time at Blake when we are laying the foundation for a computer science department, which will launch a year from now in fall of 2022. In the lower school, just a little bit of history, in the lower school, our K-5 students have participated in engineering and programming, what many of your students refer to as ENP, for over 20 years. We have offered ENP. Those courses have been attached to our Information Support Services department. In the upper school, computer science courses began in 2013-14. They include AP Computer Science Principles, Introduction to Computer Science, and Introduction to Computer Programming and Software Design. And those upper school courses are attached to our PK-12 math department. This year, for the first time, computer science courses will be offered to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. The class schedule changes that I spoke about earlier helped make the insertion of these computer science courses possible. And we took advantage of this middle school schedule revision to create this space without diminishing student engagement in other subjects that make for a well-rounded education, such as arts and physical education and wellness. Next year, we will launch our PK-12 computer science department, and we will also hire a department chair. In the coming years, we'll build upon our engineering and programming classes in the lower school. We'll also build on our computer science courses in the middle school and upper school. And we will continue to reflect and refine our computer science curriculum, looking at the entire PK-12 trajectory as we also hire additional computer science faculty. While computer science will be a new department, the skills and habits of mind we'll be teaching are keeping with the hallmarks of a Blake curriculum. Courses will focus on problem solving, on critical thinking, and on collaboration. We're building the computer science department with multiple goals in mind. And one of those goals, it includes our knowledge of the relative scarcity of people of color and women in science. Where there's a large body of research that suggests that PK-12 computer science offerings are critical to sustaining interest in computer science in post-secondary education as well as into professional career trajectories. So it isn't just, computer science isn't just a timely discipline, but also one that resonates with Blake's mission, our core values, and our commitment to pluralism. So in conclusion, the pandemic has caused us, like so many communities and organizations, to reflect on who we are and what we do and what we want to do moving forward. We have worked to use this unique moment to consider facets of school life, from curriculum to scheduling to community engagement to the physical environment and more. And throughout it all, our guiding principles have been to make good use of the investments that we've made, to draw on the skill sets and the expertise that we have developed, and to reconfirm the human aspects that make our school community so meaningful. So thank you. And I am glad to answer any questions you might have.
John Crosby's got one.
Could you say something more about the consolidation of the lower schools? And maybe you've already said that to all audiences, but so they've all heard this before, but I think that's a huge step in the history of the school.
Sure, I'd be glad to. 2 years from now, we will unify our two lower schools. We have two divisions of two campuses of PK through 5. We will unify them here on this campus. And we will also open a new early learning center that will be for pre-K, K, and 1 students, and then our upper elementary division that will be in our current and a renovated current lower school building will be for 2nd through 5th grade. We are so excited to have our lower school together, to have a singular culture for lower school, to have a really aligned curriculum, to differentiate ourselves by highlighting our extraordinary early childhood program, by having a facility that really expresses and makes possible the learning, the student-centered learning that informs. It's a Reggio-inspired curriculum in our pre-K, K, and 1 years. There are so many benefits to having us all together, to having our students know each other, our families know each other in lower school, to enter 6th grade, having everyone have been part of this campus. So we really see it as a way to move the school forward for the next 100 years, a vision of a really unified Blake. And that we're super excited about what this will make possible for, the next chapter of Blake. Yeah.
Ms. Linville, right there.
First of all, my name is Maggie Linville. This is more of a comment than a question, but my name is Maggie Linville Smith. I'm a 1983 grad, and I'm the mother of a 4th grader at Highcroft. And I just wanted to use this opportunity here to thank all of the administration, all of the volunteers, everybody who has played such a big role in the last 18 months to make sure that our children can be educated. when I think about everything that everybody's going through in their personal lives, to be able to give that extra amount to our children, it was beyond what I can express, but I hope that the faculty and the staff who are here will pass this along to each and every person who made such a difference for our children, because it's been a very stressful time, and the children who had the privilege to go to Blake, I think they felt loved and nurtured and educated, and their well-being and their development was addressed. And so thank you for what you're doing for the future, but I also want to look back and thank each and every one of you for what you did over the last 18 months for our children. I'm very appreciative.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you, Maggie. It has truly been a team effort, and many of the administrative team are here, and I give my heartfelt thanks to them. They've done an amazing job.
And I had a few questions that were sent in for some folks that were online, and in the past we've had an interactive online question format going, but we didn't this time, so some folks pre-asked. One of them is, the last 18 months have been incredibly challenging to educators across the globe. While unpredictability is certain, guiding principles have helped leaders through ages of uncertainty. What principles guided you in the last 18 months, and what will guide you in the next 12? Just a small question.
Just a small question. I like that. That's a great question, and I think very much along the lines of the way we're seeking to reflect on what have we done, what do we want to continue to do. I think for myself, one of the things that I have been really focused on is communication. And so some of you might feel like, oh no, another email from her? Okay, but is to communicate what we're thinking, what we're planning, if we haven't made a decision, when we will. So that folks can have a sense of and have some look in to what are some of the factors that we're grappling with. So ongoing communication, whether it's with the parent community, the student community, the faculty and staff. I met with faculty and staff in small groups. I do it every year, but I did it multiple times last year to get feedback on how are things going? What are the biggest challenges for you? And so keeping that bidirectional communication and really sharing what we're thinking has been an important leadership message. I think a principle that has informed how we've run school in the last 18 months. I would say a second principle is to keep perspective. It can be tempting if you have 5 kind of barbed, not very kind emails in your box to think, whoa, okay, everyone's unhappy. And then you think, wait a minute, there are 2,000 parents. These are 5. So it's really important to keep perspective and for me to help our team keep perspective because that's what allows you to, be calm and respond in a way that's productive and constructive. I would also say that I think many of you are probably familiar with the Eisenhower matrix of the urgent and the important, and it can be really challenging to let the urgent get in the way of the important. In other words, the thing that needs to be decided tomorrow, how many clamshell lunch boxes do we need for the lower school, 2nd grade? I mean, you can get really, really in the details, and those things need to be decided. And then longer-term projects like the unification of the lower school, you really want to continue moving forward on things that after this pandemic is over, we still want to be moving forward as a school. So really, I think trying to balance those, and some things that seem urgent, in fact, aren't, or they need to be set aside, and just make sure that those important things, those long-term projects and strategies are continuing to get attention. I would also say for a leader, if you're not finding the joy and the optimism, who will? So you really need to model that. And it can feel pretty heavy, and folks have a lot of anxiety, personal and professional, and making sure that we're finding the joy, that we're having humor. And for me, sometimes, it's like, okay, let's go. We have a happy face. I might go in my office and go, but even sharing those moments with each other, super important, because that's what sustains us. That's what allows us to continue to really plug in ways that we find meaningful and to create a safe and really exceptional learning environment for students.
Terrific.
So, yeah.
Thank you. And you got one way in the back. Yep.
Alexander, parents of 8th graders.
Hi, Anne.
Hi, Wade.
Thank you for sharing with us the thoughts behind the new scheduling, and
Yeah.
it's exciting to see things like computer science being made available at the middle school level.
Yeah.
I was speaking with other parents and other students, and people are excited to see what happens with the 70-minute classes and with the new opportunities with computer science and other things that are going on. One thing that confused both the parents and the students was the addition of 15-minute passing time. Is there a purpose behind that, or is it simply to fit the 70-minute classes into the day?
Well, I'm going to take a stab at that, and then I'm going to tap Mr. Dean sitting over there. But there's one 15-minute passing time in the middle of the morning. It is not between each period, correct? And it is for really kind of a morning pause, really trying to slow that rush between things, give students an opportunity to talk with each other, give students an opportunity to check in with teachers mid-morning, which they otherwise might not have. So it's really not thought of as a passing time. It's not 15 minutes to go from one end of the building to the other, but it is really to make time for those other important connections. And now oh yeah, Jade, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, the slowing of the pace of the day was one of our driving, parts of the model. The morning break is only 10 minutes. And in between each of our 70-minute classes, there is something other than a class. So it was really important to us when we were designing this that there weren't going to be two classes back to back. To have kids rushing from one class, say it's math, they get a test back, and they're kind of dealing with, I got to be wrong on this, I need to kind of recover, and then very quickly they have to go to their locker, trade out their materials, and then go to, say, through span, following that. It's just giving them a chance to kind of have some kind of opportunity to then be present for fully in their 70-minute classes. So we have the 10-minute morning break, then following our second 70-minute class, that's our lunch and recess block in the middle, and that's where our clubs and all of those things happen. Followed by another 70-minute class, followed by the X block, where tutorial, assembly, community activities happen, and then we finish the day with another 70-minute block and what we call our launch pad, which is 5 minutes at the end of the day, where advisors can just check in with the team. So yes, let's right here, right now, dispel the myth of the 15-minute passing period.
And another question from our guests online. Critical race theory, or CRT, has been in the news a lot lately. Can you talk about critical race theory and whether it is taught at Blake, and if so, how?
Okay, great question, and yes, one that's been in the news a lot. I was first exposed to critical race theory when I was in graduate school in the late 80s and early 90s. And what critical race theory, CRT is the acronym folks use, what it posits is that individuals can be non-biased, not prejudiced, but systems can be. And that systems can be legal systems, political systems, cultural, educational, can have policies and protocols that are set in place that are explicitly discriminatory. And then at a later point, those discriminatory policies are retracted, but the consequences remain and they persist. So that's one way that a system that is built on discriminatory practices no longer is explicitly discriminatory, but the consequences are. Another example would be a system that on the face of it doesn't appear to be biased, but in its practice it is. So it is really an understanding of systems and a way of looking at systems through this lens of asking this question. Are there consequences from earlier practices that persist, that are discriminatory? Or on the face of it, does this not look discriminatory, but in practice it is? So that's what critical race theory is. It's a lens, a way of looking at systems. Our Blake grandparent, Tim Baylor, last spring, former NFL player, spoke about redlining in the Twin Cities. And I think many of you probably attended that online breakfast at Blake. That's an example of using the lens of critical race theory to understand a system. So redlining in the Twin Cities meant that government officials drew literally red lines on maps around areas in the city that were deemed poor financial risks. And they were often deemed poor financial risks because of the racial composition of the inhabitants. So what that meant is that home loan policies prevented people of color from receiving home loans because of those areas in which their houses were located. Those covenants and those policies were repealed in the 60s and 70s. Nevertheless, what we see today still is racial patterns that persist in regard to lack of transportation, lack of affordable housing, restricted mortgage lending still, and underfunded schools for those living in those formerly redlined areas, which are predominantly people of color. So that's an example of looking at a system through the lens of critical race theory that helps us understand kind of historical and cultural and policy-based implications. At Blake, we do not teach critical race theory. It is really a university, graduate school level way to study. I studied it in the realm of literary theory. We do, however, teach about systems. We teach about cultural, legal, political, educational, healthcare systems, and we seek to give students the tools, multiple lenses. Critical race theory would be one of them. We very rarely would use that language, but we would say, let's be critical thinkers and ask, not only who, where, what has taken place, but also how and why, and what is the persistent impact. As an institution, we also ask ourselves those same questions about our institutional policies and practices that may contribute to inequalities or may actually impede our ability to deliver on our mission and our values and our commitment to pluralism. And I'll give you one example of a protocol that we have revised once we understood, really had a clear-eye view of its implications. When we have openings that develop for faculty in April, May, or June, that is after the standard academic hiring cycle. So usually positions, if posted November, December, we hire early is Valentine's Day, late, I like to say, is St. Patrick's Day. So what that means is when you're in that hiring cycle and we do a national search, we get a deep and diverse pool of candidates. Those outstanding candidates from all walks of life are snapped up by March. So when we have a position that comes available in May or June, we are out of that academic hiring cycle and we're not able to get a deep, diverse, nationally advertised pool of candidates. We'll have a narrow pool, and most often we fill that with somebody local, and it can be somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. That's how networks of work. And I'm not suggesting that those folks who are hired late in the year are not highly skilled, experienced teachers. That's not what I'm suggesting. What it means is that it is a much more insular process, and we don't have the advantage of a deep and diverse pool. So our policy is we will hire someone in May or June. That is an interim appointment, and meaning for 1 year. And then the next fall, advertise that same position nationally. The person who we have in the interim role is welcome to apply. They often do. But that we are ensuring that we are having diverse candidates and a deep pool of candidates. And it is in making that shift that we have made our greatest strides in having greater diversity among our faculty. So there's an example of seeing a system that wasn't having the effect that we wanted, reshaping it. So
Terrific.
yeah.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question. How about right in the middle, right there with the microphone? Yep.
Thanks so much. My name is Lori Cox, and we're new to Blake this year. Our child is in 7th grade. I just want to say thank you to everyone for everything you've done to make us feel welcome. This is a very different experience. We have one child, so we won't do this again. I just want to thank you again, Dr. Stavney, for taking a little time with me, coming from a public school system, and the fact that you listened to me and tried to take a few minutes and understanding that the idea of pluralism and equity is keeping in mind all of the activity of all the kids all the time, and that I already see the activities coming online for kids, because even after school, after learning, what they do to make them, again, feel a part of the community, that we keep that as open as we can, and I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome, Lori.
Excellent. See, and I appreciate that, but since it didn't end with a question mark, how about one more? Right?
I'm also new at Blake. I'm a mother of a ninth grader.
Yes.
So I was wondering what the plan is, given the pandemic, about the study abroad program. I guess it has been impacted, so I was wondering what the plans were going forward.
For everyone to know, we have kind of two forms of study abroad. We have school year programs, of which we have 10 or 11, Joe, participating in this year. School year programs where students can go locally, New York, Colorado, or overseas through school year abroad. Those programs are running. It really depends on the countries and the guidelines and limitations for those countries to host our students. But we do have a number of students studying abroad. We also have our global programs where we offer 2, 3, sometimes even 4 trips during the summer, spring break and summer, where students spend 3 weeks a month in another country and getting to know other students of their age, doing some service. We are planning full speed ahead. We're really wanting to offer those trips this summer. It's such an important part of what we do, and I think opportunities we offer our students, and also it benefits the community tremendously to have those students come back from their summer experiences and bring those perspectives to the classroom the following year. So we are planning full on. Again, it will depend on the travel restrictions of the host country, but right now we're planning to move forward. So, yeah.
And do you have any kids, foreign students coming to Blake? Or have there been, and do we anticipate it?
Well, we don't anticipate it this year.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
But in the future, we do have those programs.
Yes, we have scaled those down a bit, really wanting to provide our students the opportunities to go elsewhere. But yes, we do have exchange programs.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Terrific. Good. Well, Ann, thank you very
Yeah.
much. As always, it's just great to hear about this wonderful school of ours.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
You're the
thank you.
best.
And thank you all for
Appreciate
being here. Thank you.
Don't forget, everyone, October 1st, Dr. Stephen Hogue, and I'm going to ask him to bring some vaccine for those of you who have not gotten your shots. Okay? Good enough. Thanks, everybody.